This is Jonathan Cahn. Welcome to my YouTube channel. When you look at what's happening in the world, it's easy to wonder what's going on, and are things out of control? Is this what the Bible foretold? Is the end near? What do I need to know about the future? Where's it all going? How can I be prepared? What is God's prophetic word for the hour and for me? On this channel, you're going to find prophetic updates, the mysteries of God, daily words for life, biblical revelation, prophetic teachings, and much more. I pray it's going to be a great blessing to you in the days ahead. So be sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time there's a new video that's posted. Leave a comment as to how God is blessing you. And don't forget to share these videos with friends who need to hear them. Thanks again, and God bless you. Shalom. August 12, 2025 is not just another date on the calendar. It is a point in time toward which multiple threads of events, decisions, and unseen forces have been converging. The countdown is real, and every passing day closes the gap between where we are now and the moment when those who are paying attention will either act decisively or watch the opportunity slip away. Dates become significant when they mark the arrival of a culmination. When patterns in economics, politics, technology, environment, or collective human behavior line up in such a way that the conditions for change are not only present but ripe. This is one of those moments. What happens on that date will not appear random to those who have been following the signs. For months, perhaps even years, there have been quiet signals, subtle shifts that most dismissed as noise, but which now form a clear trajectory toward this deadline. The urgency comes not from superstition or vague speculation, but from the recognition that certain windows in history are both finite and decisive. Think of history's turning points. They are often invisible to the majority until they have already passed. People live their daily lives unaware that the world is quietly rearranging itself beneath them. By the time they notice, the moment for proactive action is gone, replaced by a scramble to adapt to circumstances they did not prepare for. August 12, 2025 carries the hallmarks of such a threshold. The clues are in the converging crisis: financial systems straining under debt and instability, geopolitical tensions heightening in regions that control critical resources, and rapid advancements in artificial intelligence and automation that are beginning to shift the balance of economic power. Overlaying this are climate events that are both more frequent and more intense, placing pressure on infrastructure, supply chains, and social cohesion. On their own, each of these forces is concerning. Together, they create a scenario where change is not optional. It is inevitable. The date marks the point where the pace of change will accelerate to the extent that those who have not prepared will find themselves on the defensive. The reason this date stands out is because multiple cycles, economic, political, and environmental, are intersecting. Economists track certain market rhythms, some of which have historically preceded major corrections or upheavals. Political analysts observe that election timelines, policy expirations, and international agreements often align to create windows of volatility. Environmental scientists warn that seasonal and climate patterns will hit certain stress points during specific periods of the year. When these cycles meet, the effect is compounded. It is not a single event to brace for, but a chain reaction where each development amplifies the next. August 12 falls at a junction of these timelines, where key decisions will either stabilize the trajectory or trigger a cascade that will take months, possibly years, to recover from. Those attuned to the signs also notice the human element, how society reacts when faced with uncertainty. As deadlines approach, fear and speculation often cloud judgment, leading to either paralysis or impulsive moves. The challenge for the chosen ones in this context is to see past the noise and act with clarity, not panic. Preparation before the date is not about guessing exactly what will happen, but about positioning oneself so that no matter the outcome, the capacity to adapt and influence remains intact. This could mean securing resources, strengthening alliances, deepening knowledge, or solidifying one's role in a network of like-minded individuals. It means understanding the systems at play and anticipating not just the first wave of change, but the aftershocks that will follow. Urgency, in this case, is not a marketing trick or a dramatic flourish. It is a recognition of momentum. The forces that will peak around August 12 have been building for a long time, and their acceleration is no longer hypothetical. Every day closer to that moment narrows the margin for strategic action. The cost of delay is not only missed opportunities, but also the risk of being forced into reactive measures under less favorable conditions. For those who recognize this, the weeks leading up to the date become a concentrated period of focus, decision-making, and execution. It is a time to finalize plans, lock in commitments, and reduce vulnerabilities. The advantage goes to those who treat the date not as the start of a problem, but as the culmination of preparation. The reality is that nothing visible on August 12 will arrive out of nowhere. It will be the manifestation of causes already in motion. The patterns are there for those willing to look closely. Fluctuations in key markets hinting at instability, policy shifts signaling broader realignments, technological breakthroughs with disruptive potential, and an undercurrent of social unrest that flares when triggered by sudden shocks. When these factors converge, the difference between thriving and struggling is determined by the groundwork laid beforehand. Those who have mapped their strategies, gathered their resources, and clarified their priorities will meet the moment with readiness. Those who have been distracted, dismissive, or overly confident in the stability of the present will find themselves scrambling. This is why August 12, 2025 stands out as a date worth urgent attention. It is the visible marker of an invisible buildup, the point where preparation and opportunity meet against a backdrop of accelerating change. When the phrase, "chosen once," is spoken, it can easily be misunderstood as implying a secretive elite or a group selected by some external authority with privileges denied to others. In the context of this moment, it is nothing of the sort. The chosen ones are not born into the role, nor do they hold it by virtue of title, wealth, or status. They are chosen because they choose themselves, because they are willing to see what others overlook, to take action when others hesitate, and to bear responsibility when it would be easier to remain passive. Being among the chosen is not about being handed power. It is about accepting the weight of awareness and the obligation to use it wisely. It is not an honor in the traditional sense. It is a calling, and often an uncomfortable one, because to see clearly in times of uncertainty is to be unable to retreat into ignorance. In any period of impending change, there is a divide between those who sense the undercurrents and those who are swept away by them without understanding why. The chosen ones fall into the first group. They notice the subtle shifts in tone from leaders, the changes in market behavior that precede public announcements, the unspoken tension in the air before a crisis becomes official. They are attentive to patterns, both in human behavior and in larger systemic movements, and they have the discipline to piece those patterns together instead of dismissing them as coincidences. This capacity for awareness is what sets them apart, and it is often what leads them to be ready when the majority is caught off guard. Being a chosen one is less about special abilities and more about cultivating habits that sharpen perception and judgment. It requires the patience to observe without rushing to easy conclusions, the courage to question information from all sources, and the humility to adjust one's view when new evidence emerges. It also demands resilience because heightened awareness often comes with the weight of foresight. To see trouble forming before it arrives can be a lonely experience. It may mean being dismissed, doubted, or even mocked by those who would rather not be reminded of uncomfortable truths. The chosen ones endure this isolation because their focus is not on validation but on preparedness and service. There is also an active dimension to being chosen. Awareness alone is not enough. It must be coupled with action. The chosen ones are those who prepare in concrete ways, securing knowledge, building relationships, positioning resources, and strengthening themselves physically, mentally, and emotionally. They understand that readiness is a discipline, not a last-minute scramble. In critical times, they are the ones who step forward, guiding others through uncertainty, offering stability when panic threatens to take hold. This does not necessarily mean they are leaders in a formal sense, but they lead through example, through decisive choices, and through the calm confidence that comes from preparation. Importantly, being chosen is not exclusive. Anyone can step into this role if they are willing to accept the responsibilities that come with it. This is why the term can feel misleading. No one is born with the title. It is claimed through intention, awareness, and follow-through. Some will resist the call because it demands too much. It asks them to confront fears, to give up the comfort of distraction, and to take on the discomfort of readiness. Others will accept it, even reluctantly, because they understand that the alternative, being unprepared in the face of known risks, is far worse. In the context of the approaching date, August 12, 2025, the chosen ones are those who will not wait to see what happens. They are already reading the signs and positioning themselves for multiple possible outcomes. They are not locked into a single prediction. Instead, they are adaptable, knowing that the future rarely unfolds exactly as anticipated. Their advantage is not perfect foresight, but the ability to recognize when conditions shift and to respond faster and more effectively than those around them. They carry with them both a sense of urgency and a sense of proportion. They move quickly but not recklessly, and they maintain clarity even when others are overcome by the noise of conflicting information. There is a moral dimension as well. The chosen ones, in accepting this role, acknowledge that their awareness and readiness are not just for their own benefit. They see themselves as stewards, holding the responsibility to help guide others, who may not have seen the signs or had the means to prepare. This does not mean rescuing everyone or sacrificing themselves without boundaries, but it does mean recognizing that in times of crisis, the strength of the whole depends on the capacity of the prepared to share their stability. The chosen ones understand that their preparedness amplifies in value when it can be used to steady a community, protect vulnerable people, and keep important systems functioning under stress. What truly defines a chosen one is not the moment of crisis itself, but the behavior leading up to it. By the time a major event arrives, most of the meaningful preparation is already complete. The chosen ones have been at work long before others notice there was something to prepare for. They have been quietly gathering information, strengthening alliances, testing their own limits, and removing unnecessary vulnerabilities from their lives. In doing so, they not only increase their own chances of thriving, but also model a path for others to follow. This modeling may inspire a second wave of chosen ones, people who, seeing the example, choose to wake up and act before it is too late. In this way, the chosen are not selected by fate or by others, but by themselves. They are chosen because they choose responsibility over comfort, vigilance over complacency, and preparation over wishful thinking. They do not wait to be told what is coming. They look, they listen, and they decide to be ready. And in deciding, they take on a role that will matter most when the world reaches its next point of acceleration. The signs that lead up to pivotal moments rarely come in the form of loud announcements or dramatic headlines. More often, they arrive quietly, scattered across different parts of life, easy to dismiss if viewed in isolation. Yet, when placed side by side, they reveal a story that has been unfolding for some time. The unseen signals leading to this current moment are not limited to one sphere. They stretch across politics, economics, technology, the environment, and the very rhythm of daily life. The challenge is that most people are conditioned to notice only the visible, the urgent, and the sensational. Subtle shifts are missed because they lack the immediacy that demands a reaction. But the chosen ones, those paying close attention, have been seeing these markers appear with increasing frequency and alignment. One signal has been the slow but steady change in tone from those in positions of authority. Official statements often avoid alarming the public, yet the choice of language, the framing of issues, and the policies implemented behind the scenes can reveal far more than what is said directly. Words become softer when institutions want to avoid panic, but actions, quiet policy adjustments, sudden reallocations of resources, changes in investment priorities, hint at an awareness of looming challenges. These adjustments often take place months before the public becomes aware of the underlying issue. And for those watching, they serve as early warnings. Economic patterns provide another set of indicators. Markets, both local and global, react to stress before it is widely recognized. Small but persistent disruptions in supply chains, shifts in commodity prices that defy seasonal trends, or sudden changes in currency behavior are all signals. They may appear minor to the untrained eye, but to someone tracking them closely, they suggest preparation for larger instability. Even consumer behavior reflects these patterns. When people begin to subtly change spending habits, stock up on essentials, or avoid certain investments, it is often a reaction to undercurrents they sense but cannot yet name. Technological developments have also been accelerating in ways that point toward a threshold moment. Breakthroughs in automation, artificial intelligence, and data processing are not isolated innovations. They are part of a rapidly tightening weave between human systems and machine control. The integration of these technologies into decision-making processes, from finance to governance, is shifting the speed and nature of change. The gap between those who understand and can adapt to these tools and those who cannot is widening. Even the sudden emergence of new platforms, services, or digital restrictions can serve as quiet flags of a broader transformation already in motion. Environmental changes are another layer of signaling, and perhaps one of the most visible to those paying attention. Shifts in climate patterns, increased frequency of extreme weather events, and the strain on agricultural systems are not random occurrences. They form part of a feedback loop where each event increases pressure on food supply, infrastructure, and public resources. These environmental stresses ripple into political instability and economic volatility, creating a cycle that intensifies over time. What might seem like an isolated drought or a single devastating storm often has a domino effect, influencing migration patterns, market prices, and government priorities in ways that carry forward for years. Cultural and social signals may be the least tangible, yet often the most telling. Public discourse has grown increasingly polarized, not just in politics but in basic views of reality. The fragmentation of shared narratives creates an environment where collective decision-making becomes more difficult. When trust in institutions declines, when people turn to smaller, more insular communities for information, it is often because they sense instability, but cannot find a unified framework for understanding it. This fragmentation can serve as a precursor to both conflict and innovation, depending on how it is navigated. What makes these signals powerful is not any one of them individually, but the way they align and reinforce each other. A shift in economic policy that coincides with technological regulation, which in turn happens during a period of unusual climate events, is no coincidence. Each thread, when examined, leads back to the same point: systems under stress are preparing for change. Those who recognize this pattern understand that the build-up is not random. It is the natural consequence of interconnected systems reaching limits, adjusting and seeking a new balance, often in disruptive ways. The difficulty for most people is that these signals do not demand immediate attention. They are background noise compared to the louder demands of everyday life. The unseen becomes invisible not because it is hidden, but because it does not announce itself in a way that forces recognition. This is why preparation is often mocked until the moment it becomes necessary. Those who have been paying attention have already connected the dots, understanding that when enough small, quiet changes line up, the pace of events can suddenly accelerate beyond the ability of the unprepared to keep up. It is tempting to believe that when a turning point approaches, there will be a clear warning. In reality, the warning is already here, embedded in the patterns that have been playing out for months or even years. By the time the average person sees the first undeniable sign, the processes set in motion are already too far along to halt. The unseen signals are not about predicting one specific event. They are about recognizing when conditions are right for multiple events to occur in rapid succession. This awareness allows those who are watching to anticipate a range of outcomes and to take actions that position them to adapt rather than react. In the current context, these signals have been building toward a convergence. Political caution, economic adjustments, technological acceleration, environmental stress, and social fragmentation are all peaking at the same time. The alignment of these forces does not point to a single, predictable moment, but rather to a window where the potential for rapid, irreversible change is higher than usual. For those tuned in, it is not about fear. It is about readiness, about stepping into the moment with eyes open and plans in place. For those who miss the signals, the moment will feel sudden, overwhelming, and unmanageable. But for those who have been watching closely, it will be the expected result of a long, visible build-up. There comes a point in every period of mounting tension when the abstract becomes concrete, when speculation gives way to decisions that cannot be deferred. The choice that will define the future is rarely presented as a simple question with obvious answers. Instead, it appears as a crossroads in which each path offers trade-offs, risks, and consequences that ripple far beyond the immediate moment. What makes such a choice defining is not just the action taken, but the awareness with which it is made. For those who understand the forces in motion leading up to August 12, 2025, the decision is not whether to engage but how to engage and in what capacity, so that the outcome aligns with long-term objectives rather than short-term comfort. This choice is shaped by a convergence of factors. The economic and political climate is shifting, not slowly but with an acceleration that demands attention. Systems that once seemed stable are showing cracks, and the rate of change in technology and social behavior is amplifying those cracks into structural weaknesses. In such an environment, passivity is not neutrality, it is, by default, a decision to accept the trajectory chosen by others. The choice, then, is whether to step into a position of agency, directing your own response and influencing the outcome, or to remain on the sidelines and face the consequences of decisions made without your input.